Hello and good evening to everyone watching. Tonight we're bringing you the IRL F3 League. Tonight is round 3 at Spa-Francorchamps. I hope you're all sitting comfortably as over tonight. Over the next 90 minutes we hope to bring you some absolutely great action over one of Formula One's most historic tracks. It's a real driver circuit, popular with fans and drivers alike. The weather is often so unpredictable. You're going to need more than just a weather forecast to predict when the rain is going to come. Will we have some rain tonight? We'll have to hope and see. It's one of the best tracks in terms of racing. We're hopeful to get that underway very, very soon. Alongside me tonight, I have Charlie with me. Charlie, this has got to be one of the best F1 tracks of all time, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, for me, it's the best on the entire calendar. With the different undulations in the track and the fast corners and the slow corners and the plenty of places to overtake. It just provides some of the best racing, and like you mentioned, the weather as well can always play a factor in making a difficult race for the drivers.
Absolutely, and we're almost all set to go underway here. Qualifying to start very, very shortly. We're all extremely exciting. In terms of qualifying, Charlie, are we expecting perhaps teammates to give a toe to each other? Because it's such a there's some really long straights. Also, you've got Upper Rouge along the Camel Straight, and of course coming to bus stop as well. There's a lot of time to be gained, isn't there?
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of time to be gained if you can time it right. You can definitely gain a few tenths on your lap round here. So I do expect some of the guys who are paired up in teams to be doing that for each other.
Be absolutely interesting to see. And of course, someone we saw who was very particular and very strong in qualifying, both in Japan and Abu Dhabi, Mr. P, 2 pole positions out of 2 for him. Is he the favourite coming into this qualifying session?
Yeah, I'd say over 1 lap pace. From what we've seen so far, you can't really look too far away from Mr. P for pole, but he does have some strong competition in qualifying in Jeffrey and Luke Bailey, his teammate. So it'd be close, but yeah, based off what we've seen so far, you'd be putting your money on Mr. P.
Absolutely, of course, all 3 qualifying sessions we've had so far, the pre-race season in Bahrain, that was the 2 Alfa Romeos, Luke Bailey on pole. It was a racing point of TT Jeffrey in P2, and then it was Mr. P in 3rd position. And then come Japan, it was also 2 Alfa Romeos and a racing point. This time it's Mr. P on pole, Luke Bailey in P3, with Bag of Bones in P2. And of course, again, last week in Abu Dhabi, it was very much the same. This time it's TT Jeffrey is P2, while Luke was P3, and Mr. P 2 pole positions out of 2. And straight away we've got Dutch Lowry there leaving the session. There's hope. This dry session for qualifying. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what happens in terms of the weather forecast for the race. Dutch Lowry had quite an interesting race in Abu Dhabi. We'll see if we'll be able to get him back into the session or whether it will have to be a restart. But I'm sure for a massive relief for a lot of the drivers, Charlie, seems to be bone dry.
Yeah, it looks dry at the moment, but you can never tell what the weather's going to do to us here at Spa, as we found out on Monday. So, yeah, they need to get out there pretty sharp and set their laps.
Absolutely. I think just see a mechanic down there, just past the runner, guys. I think it might be one of the Haas drivers potentially looking at trying to get his name first out there. And in terms of strategy, Charlie, this circuit that, in terms of tyre wear, in terms of tyre strategy, is complete opposite end of the scale of Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is incredibly harsh in tyre temperatures and tyre wear. In terms of strategy, you could go a lot of ways. Spa seems to be a bit more straightforward.
Yeah, Spa is, like you say, complete polar opposite to Abu Dhabi. We've got very low tyre wear here. So you still will be using the soft and the medium like we did in Abu Dhabi, but you'll only be making 1 stop instead of the 2. A soft to medium strategy is, if the race remains dry, then it's pretty straightforward around here.
Absolutely, I'll certainly be hoping so. And as see the 2 Haas cars, I think, making their way onto the track, almost nose to tail. So it'll be interesting to see. Should they be able to give each other a tow, or whether they're just perhaps looking after their own interests anyway. But we'll certainly have to see how that one goes. Got 2 Alfa Romeos and 2 McLarens. You can see there on the track map on the right hand side. And in fact, the Alfa Romeos getting out of the way of the 2 McLarens, so possibly already looking at a little bit of team game. You see Mike's come out on hard set of tyres on his outlap, so he could potentially already be looking at trying to disturb the flow in terms of strategy. Maybe he really does like those hard tyres. They do seem quite a lot slower than the mediums and soft, and a lot of the guys out there already opting for the soft tyre and the mediums. But it looks like Tinnis will be the first guy to set a lap here, as he comes just round, coming up to Blanchimont very, very soon, and of course into bust up at heavy braking zones. It's important to get a really nice exit to start your lap. And of course he'll be looking on the medium tyres, whether I think you only get one set of medium tyres, so he's either using these tyres as a set of banker lap, or potentially this could be his only, if he wants to start on those medium tyres, this will be his only shot in qualifying, as he now opens that DRS and come down the home straight looking for that apex into the source. And it's all about the exit speed, just flicking through the gears, just missing the exit, missing the apex just a little bit, and in fact invalidating. So I wonder if he'll back off and give his teammate a tow. We'll have to find out and see.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be looking in his mirrors and seeing where his teammate is. It'd be the perfect time to do it right now. But yeah, I'm seeing a few guys out there on the hards. I'm not entirely sure if they're planning on using that tyre during the race. I mean, I wouldn't personally, but they might just be getting some banker laps in. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do move over onto the medium or the soft.
So you see a yellow flag in place one. I think that might have been just a car getting out of the way. I think it's nothing to worry about. See nitro gas now moving up past Camel straight into the corner. He's got a really nice flow of corners. It's just such an incredible track to drive. You have to be absolutely on it. It really punishes mistakes, and to drive on a qualifying lap on low fuel is one of the best circuits without a doubt. As you see, Mr. P still, I think he might have come back into the pit lane. So whether that was just to give his teammate a tow or not, or not, only time will tell. It's got a yellow, I think got a spin for Nitro because his teammate, I think that might be Malc, just seems to have lost it on his outlap on the hard tyres. Of course they are really a hard tyre. They are very slow, and you have to get him absolutely optimal for them to be quick, as he's just shown.
Yeah, you got to get temperatures into those, otherwise you will find yourself sliding around all over the circuit. So obviously he hasn't been able to do that on his outlap, and maybe he just over pushed a little bit.
Absolutely. See, Wojtek, he might be the first guy to set a lap. I believe his teammate up ahead has invalidated Tinnis, so
got Malc around again, just in sector 2. He's, I think he should come in and change those tyres. They're not really working out for him so far.
No, it seems to be struggling a little bit as Wojtek goes over line with a 44.6, a very respectable benchmark, I believe, and there's a nitro gas on the harder medium tyres. He's just 1.1 seconds off with a 45.7. So again, I think that's a respectable time to have as a benchmark. As you saw what Malc can do, Mike, as he comes around the last corner, opens up DRS, see what he can do on those hard tyres. He's at a 46.5. Brennon's himself, that's a 47.1 on the medium, so he'll be looking to find a little bit more time. F1 Richard, fresh after his debut win, sets a 44.9 on a soft tyre. So again, a nice. Oh, so we've got a crash from Stephen and almost collecting Gareth. Almost collecting Craig there, just coming out after the last second sector, just coming just before Blanchimont, just smashing into the outside wall. Very, very easy to do that. You have to get on the power so early because you've got to get all the best top speed you can possibly get. And I think that might have just ruined poor Craig's lap, who was on a set of soft tyres. Be hard to see what time he was looking at, but he's come straight into the pit lane. Williams have had a bit of a trouble in qualifying so far, Charlie, and that's certainly not helped them.
No, they really need to, improve that qualifying record they've got so far. It's certainly not put them in the best place for the race. Unfortunately, we've lost Stephen, so he's not going to be able to improve on that. But it's now down to Gareth to drag the Williams team up the field.
Absolutely, of course. Two Williams had a very good race in Abu Dhabi. They didn't have a good qualifying. I think they started well outside the top 10, but they both recovered to a P6 and P7, so they did really nice to collect themselves some points. But that's not that's a disaster for a start of the Williams of Stephen, and it is now, as you say, all hands on deck now for Gareth to try and wrestle the Williams somewhere into the top 10 for the start.
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at the times at the moment, we've got Wojtek in pole on a 44.6, and I think you've got Luke Bailey down there, who's normally one of our top 3 on a 45.1. So if that's not a bad lap from Luke Bailey, then I'd say Wojtek's time is very respectable. I mean, it looks respectable compared to what the other guys have done on their soft and medium runs. So yeah, I don't expect Wojtek to be dropping down too much from where he is, but let's see how the times tumble as the session goes on.
Absolutely, of course, track's so green at the moment. It will be hopefully getting quicker and quicker for these guys as the session goes on. As Malc recovering from 2 spins on his outlap, he goes P8 48.1, so he'll be looking to find just a little bit more time still. As you see, I think Mr. P has gone purple in the first sector. He, of course, is Mr. Qualifying so far this season. 2 pole positions out of 2. A bright pink helmet for this Spa-Francorchamps circuit. As we're talking about, as you just mentioned, there's TT Jeffrey in P4, 45.3 on the medium tyres. Yeah. Only 0.2 of a second off Luke Bailey, despite the harder compound of tyres. So again, he's the one who's really been pushing the 2 F1 motor so far on qualifying. Looks like he's on form to do it again.
Yeah, it's a very good banker lap from TCG Jeffrey. And when he makes the change over to the softs, I expect to see him be challenging for pole position with the guys around him.
Absolutely, see Mr. P now just about to finish his second sector. See what it says he's purple again, so he seems to have absolutely brought his qualifying form to Spa-Francorchamps with him. Let's see, only top 8 so far have set time, so there's plenty of guys still waiting it out. The Williams of Gareth is still sitting in the pit lane. As too is the 2 Ferraris of Colin and so Spiders now moves on to the track as well. He's gone for a set of hard tyres to start out with. Still B and Dragio are now out laps as well. It's currently 16th and 17th, and Mr. P goes flying into P1, 44.3. He goes 0.3 of a second faster than Wojtek, who, as we were saying, had a very respectable time himself, and 0.6 faster than last week's race winner, Mr. F1 Richard.
Yeah, that's a very good, very good first lap from Mr. P. He'll have to really push himself to find some time on that, because I imagine the people around him will improve from now. But yeah, it's a very good provisional pole time, so he's at least he's got that in the bag now. He doesn't have to worry about his other laps too much.
Absolutely, of course, we saw in Abu Dhabi, he was up to the absolute last second that he was still hadn't set a lap time. He was under an absolute immense amount of pressure to deliver that qualifying lap. While today he set himself pretty much a perfect banker lap. He's 0.3 faster than P2, and he's 0.8 faster than his teammate Luke Bailey, who himself, Luke Bailey's had a very nice qualifying record so far this season with 2 third places. He had a bit of an up and down Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but it did well to recover. I think it was to P8, picked himself a few points, which of course will always be handy in the championship. He's gone out on an outlap for a new set of soft tyres. As to as F1 Richards, he's just about to start his second flying lap on the soft tyres. Let's see what he can do. He also knows the benchmark to beat now. He's going to have to try and find about half a second, maybe more, if he wants to try and put himself onto the front row. Realistically, he's going to know the Alphas are so hard to beat. He's got a yellow flag in the third sector. I think that might have been just one of the just a Haas of tennis just slowing up a little bit to get himself the ultimate run. This F1 which is now coming up all the way to Rouge, one of the most famous and most thrilling corners on the F1 calendar. Absolutely loved by drivers and fans. It's just such an incredible corner, gives incredible views, and it's given us some fantastic racing over the years. And of course, if it is raining, Charlie, that for the race, that is one of those corners that has become an absolute nightmare for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, that corner is absolutely terrifying in the rain. You've really just got to be so gentle with the steering input and the throttle application. So it is a real test in the rain. Pretty easy in the dry now, though.
Yeah, of course. It's the downforce of these cars, and with the speed and the grip of these slick tyres, it is, as you say, it's a lot more easier. But still, with just 7 minutes left on the clock, we've got, only as Craig now sets a 44.1, so he improves by 0.2 of a second. And of course, he had his first flying lap rather unfortunately ruined by the Haas. Although Steve, not that of course he could do much about it when you're having an accident. But that's an incredible lap out of seemingly nowhere from the Renault driver.
Yeah, Craig has responded to losing his first lap really well. I mean, that's a brilliant time. So now it's on the guys to respond to that. I mean, that seems like a pretty good time. They could do well to get close to that.
Absolutely, it'll be interesting. Can they just dip into the 43, see what F1 Richard has got up his sleeve in a minute? Dreggio goes up into P4 to 1 minute 44.8, so it has knocked the current championship leader, McLaren driver, just down another position. This is to see what F1 Richard can do in his second flying lap now. The McLaren driver is just about to cross the line. Well, he improves by 2/10 of a second. Got a purple in the last sector, just a few hundredths of a second off the Haas of P3. But it does move on to the second row. I think got a few cars coming across the line any minute now as well. I think Luke Bailey is another driver who seems to be up on his delta. He's about to cross into the second sector. TG Jeffrey, cannot discount him. He's had a very nice qualifying start of the season. He's out on a set of soft tyres as well. But like as Luke Bailey is almost 9/10 of a second up, so he's going to be pushing himself right up for the pole position. Provisionally, at least.
This is going to be close. This is going to be very close. It's just if he can get a good run and nail the braking point for the bus stop chicane, and traction out of the bus stop chicane is key. That could make or break pole position here. So let's see where he goes. Is he going to get good traction? Yeah, it seems to. Not much wheel spin over the line, and he takes pole.
A 44.0, so he's improved it by just a little bit. Just see Craig there. I think probably on his in lap anyway. I don't know if he's got damage. He's still seems to be sat across the track. I'm not sure if he's got damage. I think he might just be getting out of the way. I think he might have lost it around Pouron. Can't see any damage. I think he's maybe a little bit shell-shocked and doing his best to get out of the way, going across the grass to get out of the way of the hassle of Tinnis. See what he can do. He's another driver who's done a pretty reasonable job in qualifying. Hasn't gone all his own way. And he's actually gone purple, and he's up on his delta by 1/10 of a second in that middle sector. So he's finding time as well. Surely it's just a matter of time before we do find drive to slip into the 43s as Dradio, who's just I think P4 not 2 minutes ago, is now all the way down to P9. So that shows the rate of improvement that we're seeing. TT Jeffrey and himself has gone up to a 44.6, which put him into P4. See what Tinnis can do. He was on a personal best, so he'll be looking to find a little bit more time. Got a yellow sector 3. I think that might be Craig just getting out of the way, and Tinnis doesn't actually improve, so he's lost a little bit of time in that last sector. Still himself is just putting into the pits, but he's put himself up into P8. Nitro Gas as well is currently P7. Might have just had a mistake on this lap, or this could be an in lap for him. But Mr. P as well, just I think he's just about started. He's on his second flying lap now. He's absolutely matched, only 7,000 a second down in the first sector, so he's absolutely nailed the first sector as if he did it on his first lap. So it'd be interesting to see what he's got up his sleeve. He did have the first big banker lap. See how much he can improve on his second run.
Yeah, I was riding on board with TTG Jeffrey when he completed his lap, and it was a pretty scruffy lap, to be honest. I think he has got a little more time in the locker, so I'm expecting him, if he can get in and get out for one more run, could see an improvement from him. But yeah, Mr. P, like you say, was on the lap. I think he's backed off now.
I think he might have invalidated.
Sure. Yeah, invalidated, so I think he might just have time to get in and get out for another run as well if he hurries back to the pits.
Absolutely, TG Jeffrey, I think he's just coming in for an in lap, so I don't think we're watching him for too long. But Mr. P, after a very nice banker, not quite hooking up in his second lap, so he might be putting himself under just a little bit of pressure. So what Night's doing, I think he might be just on an in lap as well. So sort of into that period now, we're all transitioning, all got to just about hurry up. Let's get in the pit, putting a new set of tyres on and go for that last flying lap. There's still a few drivers there left to set a lap time. We've got Colin, Gareth, Captain Stiff and Dutch Lowe all in the pit lane to set a lap. And so far, people who we know are not going to set a lap time is O. Stevens, a Spud. Not too sure, but I don't think we'll be able to see the Dutchman of Dutch Lowe. I think he might have disconnected to start the session, so it'd be interesting to see if he could get control of his car for qualifying, but we may have to see him just in the race. I'll have a look at that. Two drivers on their outlap is one of them is the P5 of the Haas of Wojtek with just over 2 minutes 20 to go. A lot of these guys are going to be in absolute chaos to get out of the pit lane, because it is about a 1 minute 40 minute lap time. It's quite a long time of a lap, so you've got to be quite quick getting out there. See a couple of cars there, Mercedes and McLaren, keeping sure to keep well out of the way of the Haas as we're coming now up all the way through a Rouge. Got to absolutely fly it around here, keep the steering wheel straight as you can, get all the speeds you can get out of your cars. You flick open the DOS. Of course, a lot of your speed is dependent on your exit of La Source into turn 1. So see, he was doing 210 miles an hour there on his dashboard. He's a 1/10 of a second down on his PB. So on this lap, he's going to have to absolutely fly through this second and last sector if he wants to try and pick up some positions. He's 6/10 off pole at the moment. There's still people yet to improve. Are we going to see a driver move into the 43s, do you reckon, Charlie? Because Mr. P is still in the pit. He's surely not got time, has he, to improve?
Yeah, Mr. P is he's not going to have time to do another lap. He's left that too late, so could cost him here. But at the same time, it's not always best to be on pole position in Spa, because like you say, we've got a long run from La Source up through Eau Rouge. into Lacombe, you can often find yourself down maybe P2, P3 if you start on pole here. So he might not be in the worst position if he doesn't get this lap in.
Absolutely, it's such, of course, slipstream. DRS is so effective on the circuit. Of course, you do not have DRS until the third lap of the race. But see all those drivers there on the left-hand side of the screen, all out on out laps. Only Wojtek and F1 Richards are currently on a lap. But see what Wojtek can do. We've got a yellow flag. I think we might have a spinner as Luke Bailey has left the session. We'll have to see what all that's about. I think we've got a spinner. I think it might be the red nitro gas. As you see, Wojtek just cutting the corner there on the exit of the bus stop, has sadly ruined his lap. F1 Richard 2/10 of a second down in the first sector as well. So it might all be down to the last few seconds, as we now know both Alfa Romeos probably aren't going to get time. Or Mr. P's going to be very, very close to Luke Bailey. Thankfully managed to join the session just about in time before the race, because that would have been disaster to not have the pole sitter
yeah,
for the start of the race.
Yeah, he was on an out lap when I believe he lagged out. He was on an out lap, but I think his car's gone back to the pits now, so he's not going to have another chance to improve. So now this really puts Craig and also Jeffrey in an advantageous position to try and pit Mr. Luke Bailey to pole.
That's what it seems to be, almost a direct shootout, and now we've got the Renault of Craig and the Racing Point of TT Jeffrey. It might be just between those two guys to try and upset the throne of Luke Bailey. Luke Bailey, of course, through disconnection, seems to be no fault of his own. Might have lost a chance to try and improve his lead anymore. But see, Craig goes purple in that first sector, so he's absolutely flying. He's going fastest of anyone in that first sector. He only needs to find just about half a tenth of a second. That will do. That'll be enough to put him on this provisional pole, unless TG Jeffrey can find about 6/10 of a second. So it's going to be really close. As you were saying earlier, you believe Jeffrey has quite a lot of time in the bag.
Yeah, I think when I was watching his previous lap, it was very scruffy through the middle sector, so I'm expecting him to find some time through here.
And F1 Richard retiring from the session there. He's got no time left to go faster. Of course, he didn't quite hook up that last run, P6, but I'm sure I'd be pleased, as I think Craig not getting quite the chicane he would have wanted. To see what his middle sector time is. 4/10 of a second down, so this might all come down to the Racing Point of TT Jeffrey. He's 3/10 of a second up on his personal best. He's just got to find a few more attempts, but potentially to try and find pole. He's purple in that middle sector, so I'm sure both Alfa Romeos be absolutely eyes glued to the screen. It still pops up with a fabulous lap, a 44.1, just a few thousandths enough to pit him off, to pit him out of the front row. But it'll be a go P3. Out. Craig doesn't go faster at all on his last lap. He's gone into the pit lane. See Mercedes getting out the way there nicely. And TT Jeffrey goes up into P4, so he knocks down Mr. P into position 5. And I don't think we're going to have anyone. I think Malc might be on the lap. We'll see what he can do. In fact, he's invalidated. So I believe that will be your starting grid.
Yeah, it's a shame that Craig couldn't improve on his lap. And Jeffrey did improve by 3.5 tenths, so he got himself a bit closer to the front. Knocked Mr. P down to P5, which could be crucial in the race. So, yeah, not a bad lap from Jeffrey. And Craig should also be really happy with his qualifying position. He'll give him a good shot at Luke Bailey down into Lacombe.
That's really, because we've seen Craig have some really nice race pace in all 3 rounds, including the pre-season race. It hasn't quite worked out for him for reasons or another. And well, I mean, he's lucky to be in the qualifying session after the Haas go the Williams of Steven go absolutely smashing into the wall in front of him on his first flying lap. Had to bail out of that lap to be able to avoid it and to keep his car in check. But there we are. That's confirmation. Luke Bailey feels relieved. I'm sure he feels slightly robbed that he didn't have the chance to go fast again on that last run. But the result of it is he is on pole position. Craig is P2. Still is P3 after a very good result for him in Abu Dhabi. TG Jeffrey is P4. Mr. P is pole position 1 comes to an end. He's P5. Wojtek is P6. F1 Richard, Nitrograss, Dragio and Tinnis, they are your top 10. And then people who are set who are free to choose on whatever tyre they like for the race is Mike Brennons. They are P11 P12. Malc and Stephen are P4, P13, P14. Colin, Gareth and Sir Spud will round out the back. And see a few drivers there, Charlie, not setting a lap time. Gareth in particular, Sir Spud, we quite often see him not set a lap. Are you surprised with those guys, or do you think they're just perhaps maybe turn 1 is so easy, we see a lot of first lap crashes? Do you reckon they're maybe just fresh tyres, keep it clean on turn 1 and make the most of any collisions?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I can't speak on behalf of them and tell you exactly what's going on, but I think probably they're more than likely maybe not that confident around here and just want to start their race from the back and try and make their way forward and go with the flow of the race, so to speak.
Absolutely, we're just loading up now, and the guys will be starting up formation up any time soon, hopefully, as they're all just loading in. And one thing I can immediately notice, Charlie, and something we were saying earlier, the sunny skies of qualifying appears to be replaced with quite a grey and cloudy sky.
Yeah, it is grey and cloudy, but I have been informed that it's supposed to be dry for the race, so whether you choose to believe the weather forecast here or not is another thing, because it does tend to just do its own thing in a race, but potentially going to be dry all race.
Okay, well that's interesting news, and of course we'll have to see how that goes. Was saying Spa-Francorchamps is just renowned for its weather. It's so unpredictable. It's incredibly hard to predict. Something we saw in the F1 League as well. Started off dry, went to rain, and then heavy rain. So we'll see if we see anything like that. But as we were saying, turn one, Luke Bailey starts on pole. As you're saying, pole may not be the best position to be though. He's got to be very wary of Craig coming up Eau Rouge, hasn't he, because of the slipstream.
Yeah, he's really got to nail his exit out of La Source and get a good run up that hill, just so Craig doesn't have enough of a slipstream to get him into Les Combes, and then head down in the middle sector, try and build a bit of a gap, and just get that momentum going and that rhythm for the rest of the race.
Absolutely, I'm sure the Mercedes will still be licking his lips as well. He'd be happy to perhaps try and just throw his hat into the ring, come the top of Les Combes as well, and they'll see just about start the formation up in any moment now. So we'll see what the race will bring, and of course in terms of tyre temperatures and tyre wear, it's quite an easy track on these guys. Those who are starting on the soft should be able to run at least 10 laps if they choose to. Probably be seeing these guys pit from any laps onwards to about lap 8 to a lap 12 for these soft runner tyres. And if you're starting on the mediums, then well, you can pick a lap and stick with it really, because they can last for such a long period of this race. And we'll just see the guys underway as Luke Bailey heads us out. Charlie, who are you going to have your eyes on for the start?
For the start, I'm going to have my eye on Craig, because I think he's going to be aggressive up towards Les Combes. So I'm going with Craig and Steele as well. I think they both want to be fighting to get past Luke up the hill.
Absolutely, be interesting to see what Mr. P could do. Of course, he's been in pole position in Japan for round one. He was pole position in Abu Dhabi after an immense pressured final lap there. He's starting P5, so a bit of new territory for him. He'll be wanting to try and make up places into turn one and at the top of Les Combes as well. We'll have to see how that goes for him. It's grey skies and might have to work a little bit harder to try and get all the temperature into the tyres that they're going to want for the start. Just have a look in terms of the detail for what tyres everyone's gone with, and perhaps no surprises at all, Charlie. It doesn't seem like we have a single driver who's opted for the hard tyres.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting anyone to here. It's really just not necessary. I mean, unless you have an incident on lap 1 and you feel that you're not that good on tyres and you want to go to the end, then maybe you'd pick the hards, but even with the likelihood of a safety car, because it's such a difficult circuit, you really don't want to be touching that compound.
Absolutely. So yeah, Dutch Lowe there starting in P18. He's the furthest guy, all top 10 starting on softs. Everyone except Dutch Lowe going for the mediums behind. So from P11 to P17, they're all starting on the medium tyres. And Dutch Lowe is going to have to be aggressive. He's going to want to try and get ahead of all those medium runners before the pit stop phases if he can, because he could potentially lose a lot of time, not getting the most out of those soft tyres if he doesn't. So it's a very, very aggressive strategy there from the Toro Rosso driver. See how that one goes out. But it could be on with almost two separate races with two tyre compounds.
Yeah, we could do. And let's also watch out for Jeffrey at the start. Let's not forget that he got a lightning start in Abu Dhabi, disposed of Mr. P instantly, and just started to make a lead. So I'm also expecting him to be quite aggressive from the start.
Absolutely. Of course, we didn't quite see the race pace for the Alfa Romeos that we saw in qualifying. It was very much, it seemed to be the race heading towards TT Jeffrey's hands. The strategies of qualifying, the strategies and the safety cars didn't quite fall into his hands. That was taken away from him perhaps, but he'll be certainly feeling this is a new opportunity, and starting P4 is in a good position to do so. And Mr. P and P5 as well. F1 Richard will be looking to try and regain and re-evaluate his championship lead, as we've got a green flag and we're just 5 lights away from the action into La Source, as we're all waiting now. And there they are, they finally do come on. 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Who will be leading into turn 1? It looks like it's a good start initially from Luke Bailey. We have to see what Craig can do, but it looks like Luke Bailey's clear away into the lead. As you see Craig going around the outside of La Source. It looks like a little bit of a pile up there. I think there's Mr. P in the racing point of TJ Jeffrey. TJ Jeffrey moving all the way down the field. I think they might have all just avoided contact. Got a lot of drama going on in the back. Will they all fall in single file for a Rouge? They all think better of it. We see with Jojo almost pushing the Red Bull up the top of the hill. He's going to try and get to the slipstream with F1 Richard, who's made up plenty of ground already. He's up into P4. Nitrogas looking to try and get past him as well for good measure. He's going to go down the inside of McLaren drivers. A very nice move behind. TJ Jeffrey might have lost even more positions. I think almost losing a car there. It seemed like a little bit of chaos into turn 1.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure who was on the inside of Jeffrey, but it looked like he just sort of got pushed out and off the track and has dropped way down. Along with Mr. P, in fact. Mr. P must have been involved in that, so he's dropped down and he just put a very aggressive move on Jeffrey up until they come. So I expect to see these two squabbling for the rest of the race.
Yeah, you can see there are P3, 4 and 5 drivers. Mr. P, TJ Jeffrey and Steele have all dropped a lot of positions on this opening lap. I think the drivers you're referring to, I think it might have been Steele was hitting the inside of the racing point, because I think he had Mr. P alongside, so I think it's going free wide into La Source, which of course never usually works. I think they've all got away with damage, I think, just about, which is good news to see. Dutch Lowy said he needs to have an aggressive start. Yeah,
still just ran a little bit wide on the exit of the right-hander there and went into the gravel. Luckily he only did one wheel in, so we didn't see a mega crash, so he's recovered now and he's dropped behind Brennan's.
Not a good start for the Haas of Tennessee. He's down 6 positions, you can see, but still is having an absolute nightmare on this opening lap, as he's now seeing the Ferrari of Sir Spud. Has he got damage? And getting the punt up the rear from Colin for good measure, and he's coming into the pit. I think he has got damage on that front left end plate. So an absolute disaster for our P3 man. If we go back to the front, it is Craig all over the back of Luke Bailey. He could be in trouble already.
Good run. Yeah, Craig's got a really good run here. He just needs to stick with him through a Rouge, not lose the rear end, and just try and utilise the slipstream down this straight and try and get a move done. Let's see if he can do it.
There he goes into the slipstream. Luke Bailey going just a little bit defensive, perhaps losing just a little bit of straight line speed. The Renault driver, Luke Bailey, defends his position for now, but of course, crucial thing for Luke Bailey driver. He's got to try and get a second gap, because when DRS comes, if Craig is just as close as that with DRS next lap, surely it's an easy move for the Renault driver.
Yeah, he'd be breezing by if he's that close. So Luke has really got to get a move on this lap and try and break that 1 second barrier.
As you see a little bit of collision there at the back. I think that might be, it's Gareth in the Williams and I think Colin in the Ferrari. I'm not sure if they've got any damage. See the yellow flags there. I think they both managed to keep on going, but when you're on the medium tyre to start the race on, that is an absolute disaster for them both, as they're now 8 seconds behind the P15, the Toro Rosso of Dutch Lowy. See what they can do to try and regain it, because we've seen both Williams usually very strong in the race, but that's not a good start for Gareth.
No, not ideal, but there's plenty of time left in this race, and if he's going long on the mediums and we see something like a safety car, it could bring him back into contention. So try not to lose his head and just keep going.
Absolutely, and of course the Haas of Wojtek keeping his name very much into the action, as he's just a second behind the Renault of Craig. He's trying to keep up the top 2 the best that he can. Of course, he was looking very good in Japan before his crash. He was looking to get some really solid points. Of course, the podium in Abu Dhabi as well was a really nice result for him. You can see now Craig just half a second behind the Alfa Romeo. DRS is enabled, and of course, if he's just got to get a good slipstream, he's only half a second behind now. He's got to keep this toe all the way up. He's going to get a nice smooth run through a Rouge, and this could be a change of the lead. As you see now, keeps it all the way up into 8th gear. I think Luke Bailey might have got just a little bit of a better exit of a Rouge, but now the slipstream, DRS wide open, the Renault driver not quite getting close enough.
No. Yeah, he just didn't get the run up through a Rouge and out of La Source, so put him on the back foot really. He wasn't ever going to be able to challenge there, so it just needs to stick with it for this lap and go again next lap.
Let's see the Williams of Captain Stiff there coming into the pit lane. He's just pitted for I think he might be into the pits for potentially a new set of hard tyres, so there you are, he's going to the end. He might have even had damage after contact with the Ferrari of Colin. Dutch Lowy also came into the pits, he's gone to mediums. If you're Dutch Lowy, you've started on the soft, you've gone to the mediums, you going to try and make it go all the way to the end?
He well could do. I mean, like we say, tyre wear's very low here, and you can pull it off. So, yeah, he's just going to stick out there until either a safety car or some crashes happen and could bring him back into it.
All guns facing forward for Craig. He's pulled out a 1.3 second gap to the Haas of Wojtek, who seems to be just about struggling to keep up with his front two. He's got a yellow flag in 6-2. I think that might just be the Red Bull of Malc. Not quite sure what's happened to him. I think he's lost a lot of his front wings and going really wide through Pawn.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but he has completely lost half of the plating on the right front of his front wing, so he'll be needing to make a trip to the pit lane, which is unfortunate for him.
The fastest lap of the race for Luke Bailey. He's doing everything he can to stay away from Craig. He's got just about 7/10 gap. As you see, the fight for third is really hotting up. Nitro gas is all over the back of the Haas of Wojtek, and he's towing along nicely with him. F1 Richard, the championship leader, of course, heading into this round. If he wanted to try and make up a few more places as well. But it's going to be very close. It's going to be hard for F1 Richard, of course, because Nitro Gas will have the DOS. As Nitro Gas absolutely smashes into the wall. He's completely broken his wing. He's broken his car. He's out of the race from P4. And I was riding aboard of him there, Charlie.
As well.
Oh, Stephen also retires from the race. Not sure. I think he's also done it at Eau Rouge. I think they both lost at Eau Rouge. And of course, as you say, it's in qualifying, it's quite an easy corner. But when you've got perhaps cold tyres, worn tyres, heavy fuel loads, Eau Rouge suddenly becomes a very big challenge.
Yeah, it's a bit different in the race. You go up through there and you start to feel the rear end just kick a little bit, and if you don't catch it instantly, you can find yourself in trouble like these two guys unfortunately have. So yeah, we've lost them, but
massive shame for Nitro Gas and Stephen. Stephen, I think in his own right was into the point playing positions as well, and starting on the medium tyres as well. He's looking pretty handy for a good reward of points, so it's a real shame for him. It's not been a great start for the Williams boys so far, and neither the Red Bulls now, as we have a Williams, and there's something going on.
Yeah, Mr. P has just slammed into the back of Mike under the safety car, so Mr. P is probably going to have to make a pit stop now. Yeah, he just slammed into the back of Mike, and I think he's got some front wing damage. So
yeah, he's missing his front right end plate, so I'm not quite sure. Was that perhaps a lack of concentration? Or
I think they're all following a delta around the track, so maybe Mike was maybe going a bit too quick and had to slow down really quickly, so maybe that caught Mr. P out, but look, maybe like a bit of a lack of concentration. You need to be so aware of the guys in front when you're following this delta.
Absolutely, and as Luke Bailey comes into the pit and Craig, surprisingly, stays out. Does that surprise you? For you, it seems like all the soft runners all coming into the pit right now.
Yeah, that does surprise me. I would have taken the opportunity to pit now as well, because like we say, low tyre wear, the medium should go to the end quite easily from here. I think Craig may, again like last week, just missed his chance under the safety car.
Interestingly, another man who perhaps didn't get things all his own way in Abu Dhabi and says got hit, TT Jeffrey. He's starting on the soft tyres as well. He also stays out. They are the only two soft runners left on the grid. Mike moves up into P2 on the medium tyres, but it's now going to be really interesting because we're now going to have to see Luke Bailey, who's now down into P6. He's going to have to work his way back through the field. We'll have to see Wojtek, who's gone into the hard tyre, so perhaps he doesn't quite fancy the medium tyres. Be interesting to see, will that decision pay off come the end of the race when everyone's on very worn out medium tyres. F1 Richard behind him, he'll be feeling like he's got a chance to try and snatch a podium, but of course it's going to be interesting. We'll have to watch them all fight through the field, and one thing this does help is the Red Bull of Malc and the Williams of Gareth, who of course this does mean they can now catch back up with the rest of the field. Yeah,
it brings them two back into it quite nicely. It's going to be a real test now of Luke Bailey's racecraft. We know he's very quick, but how can he negotiate his way through the field with some slower runners in front of him? This is going to be really key now for his race strategy.
Absolutely, only 5 laps done so far. Of course, we're on the safety car. We'll probably see the safety car pull out for just at least another lap, I would imagine, as Craig now knows he's got work to do. Perhaps doesn't quite fancy, maybe doesn't quite fancy the tyre degradation of the medium comes to the end of the race. He wants to try and put out as much of a gap. He's probably aware that he will be falling behind people that are perhaps ahead of him, that were previously behind him. But he feels with perhaps newer tyres at the end it will come good. And of course he was challenging not just for a podium, but he's looking really nice for a race win. He was really keeping on the back of Luke Bailey. and see Brennan's as well. He's coming into P4, a guy who all 3 races so far seems to have preferred the alternate strategy. He did a really nice job in Abu Dhabi, but got some really nice points paying positions. Let's see what he can do. He's into P4. TJ Jeffrey's going to feel like he's going to need to pass the Mercedes of Mike very quickly on the safety car. He's got to try and follow Craig's lead. Those two are going to have to absolutely fly on the safety car restart. They have to, it is quite a short pit lane around here, but they're going to have to absolutely fly and get as much of a gap as they possibly can.
Yeah, the soft tyres should still be in pretty good condition for Craig and Jeffrey. So, you know, while Luke and Wojtek and Richard are making their way through these few cars they have in front of them, it is an opportunity for those guys to try and pull a gap and claw some of this time back that they've lost under the safety car. But yeah, I can't really see this paying off for them over the course of the whole race, because it's not the shortest of pit stops here. It's a short pit lane, but you do lose quite a bit of time. So yeah, it's a long lap though. There's time to gain through the middle sector. It could come good for them at the end.
Let's hope it does. As now I move on to lap 6, I'll be hopefully expecting to see the safety car come into the pit lane at the end of this. There was just see Gareth at the end of the train. There's just about caught up with everyone under the safety car, so we'll have all 16 remaining races going heel to toe, fighting for every position with the last 15-16 laps left to go of this race. And of course, someone will be licking his lips is F1 Richard. In terms of people who have pitted, it'd be looking that only Luke Bailey and Wojtek have pitted ahead of him, fresh of his F1 win. He says he smiles every time he thinks about his win. Of course, it's been a long awaited win for him, and he did a really nice race. One of the few drivers really to just not get a penalty in that race. Of course, he won it on penalties after still did get some corner cutting invalidations, so it's well deserved in that respect. And of course, he'll be looking at Wojtek ahead of him on the hard, so he'll be feeling that a net second place is very much his to gain.
Yeah, I imagine Richard will be licking his lips. We know he's kept it nice and tidy in the races that we've seen so far. His brilliant win last week that hopefully would have given him a lot of confidence coming into this race. So yeah, it'd be good to see if he can go forward from here. He should be able to pass Wojtek with the tyre advantage in terms of pace. So yeah, he could be looking, like you say, at a net P2 here.
Absolutely. Craig just leading out the field. We wanted to make sure it takes absolutely no life out of his soft tyres, and there is the confirmation. Safety car is in this lap, so he'll be wanting to try and bunch up the field the best he can. He's got to get an absolutely mega launch, because DRS won't be enabled straight away. Only virtual safety car does the DRS become active as soon as the safety car is deactivated, and the safety car will pull into the pits any minute now. And Craig knows that he's got his real race challenger is in Luke Bailey in P6. Of course, as much as Craig's race is going to depend on how quickly can the Alfa Romeo Luke Bailey get through this traffic and potentially get himself up into clean air. And just coming around bus stop now, Craig's looking to get a very quick restart underway, and he's already peels out of the bus stop. Mike just about sticking with him. Mercedes all seems to be all fair dues under restart, all very well behaved. Goes a little bit wide, the Renault into turn 1. But see, it might come under a little bit of pressure as TT Jeffrey gets a really nice exit out of the source, and he's going to be saying he's going to want to have to really try and get up into P2 as quick as he can. He wants to absolutely fly on his soft tyres, get absolute maximum amount of life he can get out of them. He's got a yellow flag in sector 1. I think that's Wojtek.
Yeah, Wojtek on those hard tyres. It looked like just didn't have the grip going up through Eau Rouge, so he's lost it, and we've lost him as well now.
That's unbelievable up for the Haas driver, who's looking so good. He was saying he was a net P2, of course, and he had a really good race in Abu Dhabi, a podium for him. He was looking at really solid points. It was just all the racing point just tapping the back there. And I think he might have just lost a bit of his front wing end plate there on the back of the Mercedes driver.
I'm not quite sure what has happened to Mr. P. Maybe he was caught up with Wojtek's crash, but he's dropped back down looking like he's got no front wing at all.
Safety car again.
Crazy. Race neutralised again, so
so we had about half a lap.
Not getting much racing at the moment, which is unfortunate.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Craig. Will he come into the pits this time? As Mr. P gets a drive-through penalty for speeding on safety car, which is a punishment I believe he got in Abu Dhabi as well. So yeah. I don't think he's quite learnt his lesson there. I'm not sure what's going on here. I see TT Jeffrey's gone through into P2. Not sure what all that's about. It might have been a little bit of a kerfuffle with who was ahead between Mike and TG Jeffrey when the safety car was deployed. But that is a real shame for the Hash driver Wojtek, who's someone who looks so strong and of course looking so good for a podium so far. We're saying the hard tyres are a lot slower. He was looking pretty good in terms of the durability, but do you reckon he's just perhaps a little bit of lapse in concentration, not quite getting them up to the temperature he needs them to be in? Do you reckon that was probably the main reason for him to losing it?
Yeah, I think, like we said earlier, I don't think those hard tyres should have been used in this race, and it could have easily gone to the end on the medium. So, yeah, lack of temperature maybe from the restart, and he's just gone up through Eau Rouge and lost the rear of the car. So it's unfortunate, but there's a lesson to be learned there. Never use the hard tyre at this circuit.
A very cool reality for him. See where Craig comes out. It might just even work out for him. As you see, Brennan's there, and Craig, in fact, just staying out for just half a lap after the safety car came in, but due to being under safety car conditions, he's actually jumped Luke Bailey. And I mean, wow. Luke Bailey, of course, let's not forget, he's got 3 laps on those medium tyres. They're not 3 real racing laps, so I'm sure they're in very good condition. But Craig has now jumped the Alfa Romeo, and he's now got even fresher tyres. So that has worked an absolute treat for the Renault driver. Just being a little bit more patient, thinking the safety car might have ruined his chances of this happening. Well, it's absolutely worked beautifully for him.
It's amazing how racing in Formula 1 can just swing back around and come back in your favour or go against you at times. It's, you know, no one would have expected a safety car right after we've had a safety car, but it's happened, and Craig has taken full advantage of it.
I would have thought Luke Bailey be fancying in that second safety car, but no, he's now found a Renault just in front of him. 3 of Mike's, Spud and Brennan's. Those 3 are still yet to have pits. So you see there are mediums for those 3, so they're still probably want to try and do probably a good another 6 or 7 laps. They want to try and have as much rubber they can on those soft tyres, and they're going to have to get as much of a move on as they can when the safety car comes in. Interestingly, Malc and Gareth, who seem to be at the plumb last between them for the opening few laps, they're now in the points paying positions, and be also got a big task on to try and keep there. Obviously 2 hard tyres, they'll very easily go to the end, but of course they've got every car behind them has now got a brand new set of medium tyres. Yeah,
I think, like you say, it will be hard to keep anyone behind on those tyres. Really not the ideal tyre to be on, with everyone else behind being on the medium tyre and going to the end. So they will find themselves at a disadvantage, but they just got to try their best to use their racecraft and their knowledge to keep the guys behind.
Absolutely, and so now effectively our net leader is of course Craig. Luke Bailey and F1 Richard would be our podium looking most favourable right now. Nike's, Spud and Brennan's, they're going to have to try and pull away the most they can, because they have got to try and get a pit stop gap on these guys. Of course, that's going to be not really potentially realistic, because of course Craig's, Luke Bailey and F1 Richard, not only do they potentially have pace on all these guys, they've got brand new mediums as well. So it's going to be tough for these 3 guys. Perhaps it is just a little bit too long to ask for those soft tyres to go to the end from now. But it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see where all these guys end up. And of course, interestingly, we've got Steele and Mr. P. Steele qualifying P3, Mr. P qualifying P5. They're now 14th and 15th. New set of tyres. It's going to be interesting how we see them fly through the field. Also TG Jeffrey as well.
Yeah, Jeffrey's got a lot of ground to make up, and also Mr. P. Luckily, the safety car has come out and sort of saved his race again, because he seemed to be having a bit of a capitulation again like he did last week, but he's got another shot at it, so I expect to see Mr. P and Jeffrey coming back through the field, and also Steele behind them.
Absolutely, Mr. P saying before this race he's absolutely fired up to try and get the maximum result possible here in Spa-Francorchamps after the absolute disaster that was Abu Dhabi. Failing to score a point from pole position is not an experience any driver wants to really go through, but it's not quite going all his way so far tonight. P5 in qualifying, it's not a bad qualifying by any means, but of course by his standards the start of the season there has been a little bit of a slip, I suppose, for him. And of course start P14 after lap 9 is certainly not what he was expecting coming into this race. But still plenty of time to make amends for it. TG Jeffrey, of course, is a driver we know who's very, very quick in these race conditions. He's P11. Be interesting to see how he can fly through the field, especially when these front 3 all pit. Craig knows he's got the track position over Luke Bailey. He's got the fresher tyres over Luke Bailey. He's got perhaps the momentum to try and get himself a win. But of course, something we haven't really spoke about yet, Charlie, is in terms of track invalidations, corner cutting penalties. It's certainly not as strict as Abu Dhabi, but if you are not 100% concentrated, you can quite easily pick them up around here.
Yeah, there's a few different places, a couple of corners in the middle sector, and even the bus stop. If you're not careful, you can run straight across that and get a big penalty. So, yeah, you do have to be, push into the limits, but also keeping your wits about that. You're not running too wide on exits and picking up unnecessary warnings.
Absolutely, so just a safety car in this lap, so we hopefully get more than just a half a lap of action. So yeah, the safety car now appealing. Obviously, interesting to see what Mike does. Does he go for a slower restart than Craig? He's got a similar. He's going to have to think fairly similar in terms of strategy. He's going to want to try and pull away the best he can. Maybe not be from Craig and Luke Bailey and F1 Richard, but just those guys. Maybe Malc and Gareth, the guys out of the points. They're going to be the guys they really want to try and pull away from. As the Mercedes now leads the Ferrari, coming just into the bus stop as the safety car just about to peel off any minute. Mike has just seemed absolutely determined to get this race underway. And here we go then, out of the bus stop. The Ferrari's got just a little bit of a squirm on. We might see Brennan's go for an overtake into La Source. It'll be interesting to see if he can do it. He has to be late on the brakes. Does he think of it? He does think, but he thinks better of it as the Ferrari goes straight on.
Yeah, he's gone well deep there, and he's just allowed Brennan to slip up the inside. Now who is going to back out on the way down to Eau Rouge, and it's going to be Sir Spud.
Very nice restart from Brennan. To see now Craig as well. He's going to try and want to get himself into it. Brennan goes a little bit wide, and see Malc picking up 3 seconds there for time corner from corner cutting. We were just speaking about it as Spud. Oh goodness, it's Craig. They're going to go 3 wide here. Let's see who's going to. The Ferrari looking down the inside. Craig's going around the outside. The Alfa Romeo goes really close to the Ferrari. Craig picks up a position. Luke Bailey follows him through. So Spud's not had a good restart at all. Craig now moving up into P3. Luke Bailey determined to follow the back of that Renault's got a yellow flag in sector 1. I think that might have been. I think that's Gareth and the Williams just perhaps making a mistake in Lecom. Yeah, possible contact as F1 Richard follows through as well. So Spud having a nightmare.
Yeah, Sir Spud having a nightmare, but well followed through by Luke Bailey and Richard. They did well just to dispatch of Sir Spud instantly. So they've got to stick on the back of Craig if they both want to challenge for the win. Absolutely, it's a really nice race car from those 3. They've got to make the most of every opportunity, and of course when you see a driver ahead make a move on the car ahead of them, you can sometimes try and sneak through as well, and both of them did really nicely, and these 3 showing why they are effectively the net leaders and the net podium so far, as Craig has now already got his eyes set on the McLaren of Brennan's, just 4/10 of a second behind coming through this last sector now. Mike's had a very nice opening lap to his restart. There's a 1.1 second gap, so he's broken the DRS of the McLaren. He's determined to try and get some sort of lead established for now. Of course, he has still got to do a pit stop. Drager's coming a little bit under pressure from the Haas of Tinnis coming through bus stop. The Red Bull of Malc having a little bit of a look as well, but he's got problems with the Racing Point of TG Jeffries coming back underneath him. See Tinnis now peeling into the pits. I think there's also might be Dutch. I think there's Mr. P in the pit lane as well. Not sure if he's got down. TG Jeffries is determined to make his way through the field, going around the outside of the source. Just leaves the space, and Malc well defended through turn 1. But TG Jeffrey knows he's got to get a move on if he wants to try and get back into contest with the top 3, top 4. And coming through a Rouge, Malc just struggling on those hard tyres. Got a really nice run, the Racing Point driver. Which way will he go? Malc goes to the right and Racing Point to the left, and got the tail also Dutch Lowry going into the inside as well. Got a yellow flag sector 1. I think that might be the Williams of Gareth. So just bang wheels at a Racing Point, and I think it was Dutch Lowry. Dutch Lowry spun. Dutch Lowry's in the wall after contact with Jeffrey. They both went side by side. Another one. Wow. They both went side by side through Lecom, and Dutch Lowry was sent spinning into the wall. So Mr. P and Tinnis were both serving drive-through penalties, is why we saw them come into the pit lane. So yeah, again, Mr. P, he's bailed out by another safety car. He brought up to the back of the pack. He's got a third go at it now. See if he can come through the field this time.
Well, I'll see if he makes the most of it this time. I think we just saw the Williams of Captain Stiff. I think he might have just lost it through Rouge, but I mean, goodness me, I think that's the 3rd safety car in what, about 3 laps. I think we've got about a lap and a half of action this time, so maybe we'll get
maybe we'll get 2 next time. We got Jeffrey out there now because of the contact with Dutch Lowry. I'm assuming that's where his damage has come from, so he'll need to pit for a new set of tyres. Will he go on softs? Will he try and stretch the softs to the end? I think it's possible. Obviously with the lighter fuel loads and the laps under the safety car, I'd certainly be giving that a go at this point of the race.
We certainly think so. As the Mercedes of Mike feels certainly time, so too does Brennan's. He follows suit into the pit lane. These guys will be pitting fairly soon on the mediums anyway. Makes absolute perfect sense for them to pit. Luke Bailey comes into the pits. I'm not sure if we were all expecting that one. Is he feeling like a brand new set of soft tyres to try and fight his way through?
Yeah, he could well do. He might just be trying his luck on the softs. Let's see what he goes on to. Yep, it is the red walled soft tyre, so he may have lost a couple of positions in the pits here. I'm not sure who he's behind. Yeah, so he obviously has now lost track position to Mike and Brennan's. Brennan's has gone on to the hard tyre, so obviously he thought that he couldn't take the soft to the end, so I can't imagine he's going to have very good pace in the second stint. But yeah, Luke Bailey trying his luck on the soft. It could work out for him. He might come a cropper at the end though.
Well, I mean, good luck predicting all this in terms of strategies. We thought it was very black and white. It was soft to medium tyre, or vice versa. But due to safety car conditions, there's a strategy for every single individual driver on this field right now, and that's a massive gamble for Luke Bailey. I mean, he was looking fairly confident and fairly good for a minimum of P2. He must be feeling very confident to gamble it for P9 and a set of softs.
Yeah, it is a bit of a gamble because, like you say, he's got a whole gaggle of cars between himself and Richard and Craig. So if he's confident that he can dispatch, maybe 1-2 cars per lap, and that Craig and Richard aren't going to pull away, then he's got to go for it. But I don't know. I think he's going to lose. For me, he's going to lose a bit too much time through this traffic. It could cost him here.
We have to find out. Of course, he's going to have to fight his way through quite a lot of cars, and of course in front of him he has still got Mike, who's on a brand new set of soft tyres himself, so that will not be an easy overtake at all. Brennan's, interestingly, he came onto the pit last lap, but instead of going for the soft tyre, he felt it necessary to go for the hards. Whether that pays off for him, only time will tell. Of course, they are quite a bit slow around here, and the softs should just about make it. Of course, it might be a little bit hairy the last lap or two, but we are expecting them to be okay. Gareth comes in for a new set of medium tyres as well. Tinnis, new set of softs. Mr. P followed his teammate into the pit lane. Yeah, he's now P12, new set of softs as well.
Yeah, Mr. P, interestingly, going for the same as his teammates. So they've obviously come up with that plan together. See how it fares for them for the rest of this race.
Absolutely, F1 Richard would be. It seems like just had a really good race again so far. I don't want to jinx him after just only 12 laps. Still a long way to go in this race, but he has quite a modest qualifying all three races so far this season, including pre-season. It seems, but just by keeping his head down, having a clean race, knowing his strategy, putting in good consistent lap times. This is the sort of thing, keeping it clean. This is the sort of thing that won him in Abu Dhabi, and who knows, he might even have a chance of winning again today. Yeah,
definitely. Like you say, he's kept it clean, nice and tidy. His pace is good. He's not setting the world alight in terms of pace, but he's doing exactly what he needs to be in the right position. So we don't want to jinx him. A lot of the things we've said so far don't seem to have come off. The drivers seem to have thrown it back in our faces and gone, hey, have a bit of that. But yeah, he's looking strong at the moment. Let's see if we can have a bit of a battle for the lead now.
Absolutely, just loving this on the left hand side of your screen. The top 6 all have used tyres, and then from 7th all the way down to P14, one lap old tyres. It's going to be really interesting to see how those guys in new tyres can catch up with the established top 6 right now. And we were talking about Craig. Had a bit of a mixed start of the season. He's shown some really good pace throughout the start of the season, and for one reason or another hasn't quite always worked out, but he's sitting in a really good position now. He's surely favourite for the win.
Yeah, I would have said so. It's dependent on how quick Luke Bailey and Jeffrey and Mr. P can make their way through the pack. But Craig's pace is really good, so I can't imagine that they'll be gaining time on him hand over fist. Yeah, so he's looking good. He just needs to keep it clean. Get into his rhythm again, which can be really hard after 3 safety cars. It's really disruptive to your race pace. So yeah, he just needs to find his rhythm again, get his head down, and keep his eyes forward, and not worry about too much that's going on behind him.
Absolutely, of course, he has set 5 laps in those mean tyres, but I think most of those 5 laps have been under safety car conditions, so I expect them to be almost as good as new. He'll be very comfortable going to the end will his pace be good enough to hold off the likes of Mike, Luke Bailey and Spud on brand new sets of tyres? We'll have to wait and see their confirmation. Safety car is in this lap, so we'll hopefully have the last 9 laps of absolute pure action. We won't be needing the Mercedes pace car again tonight. We will see the safety car peeling off now. Craig making sure he gets all the temperature he needs into those medium tyres. He doesn't want to make the same mistake as someone like Wojtek, who of course was sitting in a really nice podium position, looking really good for really solid points tonight. Just lost up a Rouge after the safety car restart. Really unfortunate there for the Czech driver. But you see now the safety car peeling into the pits, and you see Craig now really letting them go out of the bus stop. F1 which is only just a few tenths behind. Giorgio also getting a really nice start. He's right behind the McLaren driver. Malc could be a little bit of a defence for these top 3. Also, he's sitting on 10 lap old hards. He could be someone who really has to hold off the advancing pack on new tyres.
Yeah, he's got a very racy steel behind him, and Colin. So Malc is, yeah, like you say, and Colin has lost it through Eau Rouge and picked himself up a penalty, and he's looking like he's going to lose a couple of places now. We've got 3 wide on the straight. Mike coming through as well. So Mike has made a rocket start. He's gained a couple of places down the inside of Brennan's. He's not going to make it pass through there. So yeah, Mike looking very racy as well at the moment, like it's ahead of Luke Bailey as well.
Absolutely, and some we have perhaps given the credit for. Giorgio has put himself up into 3rd place. He was looking down the inside of everyone, which perhaps with DRS could have had it. Have we got a spinner? Is that Mike?
Jeffrey at the back and Mike as well. Yeah, 2 spinners again. I'm not quite sure what happened to Jeffrey and wasn't riding the ball with Mike, but he's picked up wing damage.
Oh, absolute disaster for 2 of the guys we were really looking forward to coming flying through the field. Does promote Tinnis and Gareth up into P11 and P12, and does promote Mr. P into the points paying positions, despite quite a messy race by his standards. We see F1 Richard, of course, he'll be looking to try and get it back-to-back wins. Would be quite an astonishing achievement after waiting so long for that first win, but he's coming into a little bit more pressure. He's going to have to look a little bit more behind than forward, as Teo Rosso Giorgio is looking really, really racy. You've got to say, really fair play, really good restart from Malc as well. Oh, as commentators curse, he's absolutely just lost it through Blanchimont, almost Kimi Räikkönen of 2008. He's just lost it on the curb. Old hard tyres, he's going to be careful the way, thankfully, he's ghosted. Reversing it around, new fastest lap of the race by Craig, but just old set of tyres on hards. Do you think he should have pitted under safety car, or was that the only card he had?
Yeah, it's just another guy coming across the hard tyre. They really are not the tyre that you want to be on out there. They don't really give you any help whatsoever through any corner. So yeah, unfortunately he's another victim of that. But hey, maybe there'll be another safety car.
Well, he'll certainly be hoping so. As Mike and Malc both coming to the pit lane, they're going to be a long, long way back in P13 and 14 for the rest of the field. Giorgio again looking at the back of that McLaren driver. There's F1 which is perhaps just a little bit more defensive than offensive. That's certainly going to suit Craig, as with just 8 laps to go, he's set new fastest lap of the race. He's got the freshest tyres out of the top 4. He's going to be looking to really advance that lead, and he's already broken the DRS zone. He's got a yellow flag. I think that must be Mr. P
again. Yeah, he's having a dreadful race down there. Wasn't on board with him, didn't see what happened, but maybe he was all over the back of Sir Spud in front, so maybe he's just tried an audacious move. I don't think he got a good run on him down the Camel Straight, but yeah, maybe he tried an audacious move and has ended up spinning.
Let's see, Luke Bailey now into P6, and he's all over the back of Brennan, so he's on a new set of tyres himself, but there are those hard tyres, and we're saying they really don't look like the best race tyre to be on right now. Be interested to see if Luke Bailey, of course, he's absolutely determined to try. He needs to get past this McLaren as quick as he can, because he knows the car's ahead of him of the McLaren or an old tyres. He knows he's, in terms of tyres, he's got the best tyres of anyone above. He's going to go have a look down the inside of Blanchimont. He thinks better of it at the last minute. Will he try to throw it up down the inside of the bus stop? He has just a little look. I think he's probably now looking, as a Ferrari, so Spark goes very deep onto the base. New fast lap of 48.2 from Craig. He's doing all he needs to do, as now Luke Bailey gets a really nice exit out of the bus stop. He will have DRS come the top of Rouge into Le Combe, and that's surely going to be the place where he's going to be planning his next attack for P5. He's got, of course, got to get on with it, because he's already Brenos is already 3 seconds behind still in P4. So of course, if he does want to get back onto the podium fighting for the win, it's crucial that it gets past this McLaren now.
Yeah, Brennan's got a really bad run through Eau Rouge. This should be a straightforward pass for Luke Bailey now with DRS enabled on this lap. should breeze past down into Lecom and find himself comfortably up into P5.
And just see the Haas of, I think, Trejo, who might have just got past the McLaren of F1 Richards as well. Not sure if that was into Lecom. See, now still all over the back of F1 Richards as well. But Trejo is looking really nice on the restart. As we also just saw the final bits of Tinnis, I think, repassing the Williams of Captain Stiff for P8.
Interestingly, Craig just picked up a 3-second time penalty on the run through Lecom there, so that could prove pivotal towards the end. I'm not sure what the guys have got behind, but yeah, it's not looking good if he picks up another one of those.
No, penalties, of course, so often can prove fatal in terms of your position and your fighting for the race win and podiums. He's looking good for a podium at least, but Drago is looking so strong right now. He's got past F1 Richard, he's looking really good. He's only 2 seconds behind Craig, so if he hasn't picked up a 3-second time penalty himself, then you could potentially say he's looking at the win still. But he has got old tyres, and Craig's got plenty of time to try and get that 3-second gap. But of course, that could become crucial when this man, Luke Bailey in the Alfa Romeo, closing very rapidly. I wouldn't be surprised to see him set a few fastest laps of the race on those soft tyres. He's catching up quite quickly, and there we are, 47.6, and that was, I believe, 0.6 of a second quicker than Craig's 48.2. So that shows you the rate.
Bailey's really got to use these tyres while they're young and get the best out of them now, and try and make it count, make a big indentation into the gap that Craig and the guys ahead have pulled. So he's got to get a move on, but he's doing it so far. He just needs to pump in a few more laps like that, and he'll find himself on the back of Steele and attack him for the podium places.
You see the championship leader just trying to defend his position into Lecom, does really nice to keep it round the outside. Doesn't quite seem to have the straight line speed that McLaren. He does have DRS off the tail also of Drojo himself, which just protected him from the attack of Steel B. Did really well to defend it. Might have gone a little bit deeper. It's just about gets away with it. It's really struggling since the restart, and perhaps not quite finding the same pace that he had beforehand. But right now it's just about holding off the Mercedes for that P3 and final podium spot. Well, because it's got to be really, really important that he doesn't lose too much time. With Luke Bailey gaining so much time, hand over fist on these guys, it's just going to be a matter of laps before that Alfa Romeo catches the back of that Mercedes as well.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Jeffrey down in P11 running around with a little bit of wing damage. That's why we've not seen him on his usual pace. Oh, Gareth has gone round in the middle sector.
It's been a really trying night for the two Williams drivers, and I think Gareth, of course, we do know he's a virtual safety car, in fact, so that might just help someone like F1 Richard just hold off the attack or still be for at least another half a lap or so.
Another car around. Colin lost it on just at the end of the middle sector as well, under that virtual safety car. Not sure how he did that, but he's back up and running again. I don't think he's picked up any damage, so he looks all good to go again.
Oh yeah, frustrating up for the two Williams drivers. Stephen crashing in qualifying and then not quite having it his own way in the race as well. Unfortunate race for him. It's been a real tough night so far for Gareth. Didn't set time in qualifying. It just seems so often with Gareth. He just has quite a very good pace throughout. Still there picking up a time penalty for cutting a rouge. Quite easy to do, especially at this point in terms of the turbulent air. So that will potentially cost him. But as we were saying, Gareth now comes into the pits. Seems to have really good pace. There's certain moments in the race. As you see, Dragio almost hitting the back of Craig. I'm not sure Craig's had a very poor virtual safety car restart, but I mean, almost getting overtaken.
Looking like Craig had a bit of a, was caught napping a bit at the restart, and Dragio was all over the back of him into that braking zone. Nearly ended up collecting him. But it looks like we've got a fascinating fight for the lead now. All cars in the top four within 4 or 5 tenths of each other at the moment.
So Dragio is looking absolutely reborn since his safety car restart. He passed F1 Richard. He's looked really, really fast. The F1 Richard still doing well to hold off the Mercedes of Still B for P3. But Luke Bailey is now only 7 tenths away from DRS of this lot. And Craig, of course, who was saying he's got a penalty. He was 2 seconds clear of this Toro Rosso before the virtual safety car. I'm not sure if he lost it potentially through a rouge or just through a sheer mistake. Or, of course, the virtual safety car can be so infuriating and so close on the delta that he can easily lose a second or two for just being a little bit off it. But now he's going to have to really defend with DRS, and Dragio is going to be all over the back of him, surely coming up into Lecom.
Yeah, he's Dragio looking very racy. Just needs to keep his cool. He's got enough time in his hands to get a clean move done on Craig, so he just needs to make sure he gets a good run out of La Source now.
Absolutely, of course, now coming into La Source, he's got to get the best exit camp. That's going a little bit wide.
Yeah, he's compromised his exit there. He went in way too hot. Maybe just pushing a little too hard, and he's compromised his exit, and he could find himself under attack from Richard.
Crucial. Now looking at the delta between Luke Bailey and still just 1.2 seconds, so just next lap, well, I would expect the Alpha Mode to be right in the DRS zone of this little train. And also, for good measure, Sir Spud as well. Let's not discount him. He's on a new set of soft tyres as well, so he could be coming at a rapid rate of knots. But it's going to be hard, of course, for Luke Bailey. He might have the best tyres, might have the best pace, but of course, when everyone's in a bit of a DRS train, it's going to be really hard for him to make an overtake.
Yeah, definitely. Like we're seeing at the moment, it's a bit of a stalemate between Steele, Richard, and Dragio and Craig, because each car has DRS off the guy in front, and if the guy in P2 doesn't get a good exit, it means pretty much that there's going to be no overtaking for that entire straight.
Yeah, from which is just still, he's done well so far. He's see Gareth now picking up 3 seconds. He's done well. It's just got crucial for him to stay in that second gap between Teo Rosso of Drago. It looks like he's really struggling in the front of that McLaren. It's just dropped to about a 1.1 second gap, so he could come under real fierce pressure now from Steele. DRS has perhaps protected him for a little bit, but Steele's now all over the back of that McLaren.
Richard has a really messy middle sector. The car wasn't sticking to the corners as he'd like through any of the corners. He's now under threat from Steele. We're still going to stick it through here. He is. Are they going to go side by side into the bus stop? Richard's still there, and Richard has backed out and decided he's going to let that one go and try and fight back later on.
I think that was why Steele looks like a man on a mission. He's been another driver, been really, really feisty since the safety car restart, and he'd be looking to perhaps pick up even more positions. Of course, I think Steele might have a 3-second penalty himself, but now the man who's going to come under the most pressure from Luke Bailey is F1 Richard, the man who seems to be struggling the most out of these front 4 cars, perhaps in terms of his tyres. He has done 15 laps in those tyres. A lot of them were under safety car, of course, but there seems to be struggling. He's already 9 tenths of a second down on that Mercedes. Not quite sure what that's about. So we just see now Craig and Drager going side by side down the Camel straight into Le Com. The Teo Rosso has got the inside line, he's got the DRS, and he moves into the lead with just 3 laps to go. Craig's going to try and come back underneath him, but no, the Teo Rosso's got it done.
Yeah, nice move. Pretty straightforward DRS. A little bit of a squabble into the braking zone, but wasn't too much trouble for Drager. Let's see if he can hang on to this now.
Yeah, I don't think anyone saw this coming. It seems to be such a straightforward battle. It was Craig versus Luke Bailey for the win. I think everyone saw it as that way. But now Drager has put his name right into contention, and is now with just 2.5 laps to go. He now leads the Spa Grand Prix for just the first time, as Craig's now got a real battle to try and keep up with the Teo Rosso. He's half a second behind. He knows if he stays in the DRS zone, he's got more than a good chance of retaking that lead. The DRS and the slipstream is so strong, but the Teo Rosso is looking so planted through the corners. Really, really enjoying those medium tyres right now.
Yeah, he's hooking the car up perfectly through the middle sector and really, putting Craig under immense pressure from the cars behind. So yeah, it's not looking like Craig's going to get near to him for any of the exits at the moment. Let's see if he can keep his head, Dragio. I mean, he's having a great race up 8 positions now into the lead. Like you say, we wouldn't have expected this at the start, but he's here and he's got 2 more laps to go.
No, absolutely, fair play to him. It's been an incredible fight back from him. And of course, he's 6 tenths of a second clear, and the Renault of Craig might even have to look behind before he looks forward. I think Telstra just goes a little bit wide out of La Source, so he might come under pressure. Of course, Craig does have a 3-second time penalty. I do not believe Dragio does, so he might not even have to cross the line first and necessarily win this race. F1 Richard crucially gets himself a 3-second penalty. I think that's the first penalty he's got all race. It'll be interesting to see what the Renault of Craig can do down the straight. He's in a DRS, he's in a slipstream, Dragio, but it's just too far back, and still right on the back of the Renault as well. Yeah,
Craig really running low on his ERS battery power, so he could become under threat from Steele behind, who has a bit more left in the tank, and Drago also low on that as well, so that could prove crucial in the last lap.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure in terms of penalties where all these top 5 sit. It's incredibly close to predict on track. Luke Bailey, I think, hasn't quite made the progress he wants. He's probably looking at that sort of tyre life with the softs are going off for him, and he's losing his advantage. And we're saying it is so hard to overtake when everyone's in a massive line, everyone's getting their maximum DRS, maximum straight line speed. The great toe off the cars in front. It's so hard to overtake. Got to be a little bit inventive. You see Malc, I think we just see there losing the car and crashing out from P12
coming
Rouge.
up to Eau Rouge and has ended up in the the wall, where we saw Magnussen lose it a couple of years ago in Formula 1.
It's been a tough race for the Red Bull team, and DNF with just a lap and a half to go, so that's a real shame for him. It still was all over the back of the Renault of Craig. It was all going so well for Craig, but now he's under pressure. He's saving battery. I think it might have just be a lap or two extra, still going around the outside of the bus stop like he did to F1 Richards. Craig fights it back, but he's got the inside line. Craig's going to hang it around the outside and gets a really nice drive out the corner. So Steele's going to have to try and fight back again. It's meant Dratio might just about be able to stay away.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. That Steele seemed to have got the position on the outside and looked really committed to the move, but then maybe he had a sneaky little thought about DRS on the next couple of straights and decided to drop back behind Craig. Not that it matters because both cars have got it, but maybe he just thought he'd have a bit more of a chance in the slipstream here now.
As you can see, the Renault harvesting energy. The Craig trying to defend the inside as tight as he can. The Mercedes still goes really deep in the brakes, but he finds the corner really well. Craig's going to try and go around the outside. He's going really deep. He's done well to keep it back on the track. As F1 Richard now going to try and come back at the Renault. Craig drops down to P3, just a couple of laps. F1 Richard looks down the inside, can't quite find it. And Luke Bailey himself, I think it's just running out of tyre life. He might even get on the podium still, because I believe Craig, F1, Richard and Steele all have time penalties themselves, so I mean it might still be a good result for him. Dragio looks like he's checked out in the lead. Only time penalties will surely stop him now. He's got a 1.3 second gap with just less than half a lap to go, sorry. But it's been a real shame for Craig. I mean, time penalties might have cost him the win anyway, but it just seems to have run out of tyres the last few laps.
Yeah, it's a bit weird because his tyres are fresher than I think Drager and maybe Steele. I'm not sure. I think Steele's actually on the
same lap.
Steele's done the same same amount of laps. But yeah, it's a bit strange that Drager has been able to find this pace out of nowhere, considering Craig is on fresher tyres. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not worked out for Craig. But next race.
As they come through the bus stop for the last time, massive congratulations to the Terrosa driver. Drago will cross the line P1. Penalties do not drop him. Still has a penalty. Craig has a penalty. Luke Bailey does indeed drop all the way back up to P2. Still rounds out the podium. F1 Richard will come home in P5. So Spud P6. Brennons comes home in the other McLaren in P7. So a good result, team result for McLaren. Tinnis rounds out in P8. Jeffrey, a frustrating race for him. Once again, I feel like he had a lot more to show us. He comes out in P9. The Ferrari of Colin's going to come out for the final point scoring positions in P10. And Mr. P, once again, sadly for him, is going to finish outside the points.
Yeah, it's not been a great race for Mr. P at all. It's been pretty horrendous. He's had 3 safety cars to have another bite at the cherry and seem to be caught up in incidents in all 3 of those scenarios. So, yeah, again, he's got pace, but he seems to struggle when he's in the field and, you know, using his racecraft. Maybe gets a little bit hot-headed, I'm not sure, but needs to really work on that for the coming races if he wants to challenge for the title.
Actually, he's certainly got the pace in qualifying to challenge for the title, but it's not just quite happened in the last couple of races for him, sadly for him, after such a stunning performance in Japan. But it's his teammate who gets onto the podium in P2, and I'm sure he'd be feeling like he could have got the win today. Perhaps he went the wrong way in strategy, but just keeping a clean race, as we saw in Abu Dhabi, keeping it clean, keeping it tidy in terms of penalties does really pay off. And despite perhaps making that wrong decision, he does get P2, and I'm sure he'll be pleased with that. But a massive congratulations to Reggio. He himself also kept it clean. Massive well done to the top 3. A really, really tough race, Charlie. With so many safety cars, it was really hard. Do you think the 3 finished in the top 3? Do you think they were the ones who, during the safety car restarts, were most switched on?
Yeah, obviously, Drago, I mean, I don't think we managed to quite catch when he pitted, but whenever it was the perfect time. He just managed to keep his head through all of the chaos and a brilliant drive from P9 on the grid to take the win. Luke Bailey, I feel like he'll be thinking it's an opportunity missed to take full points, but I'm sure again he'll be back and trying his hardest next week. And still, again, started in P3, finished P3, a really solid drive from him, again after his podium last week.
Absolutely. So they are your front 3: Craig, F1 Richards, Spud, Brennons, Tinnis, TG Jeffrey and Colin. They are your top 10. We lost quite a few drivers there in the end. But we saw Mr. P and Gareth coming home in P11 and P12. They were your final race race classified drivers. It was a tough race for both of them, sadly. But yeah, an incredible finish there. Really tough to take for Craig. Of course, he's leading the race. He got himself into the perfect position. It was a really nice battle between him and Luke Bailey. But in terms of who was your driver today, Charlie?
Well, I can only look at one person for me, and that's Dragio, who just kept his head through all of the chaos of the multiple safety cars, timed his pit stop perfectly, had brilliant pace on the mediums in the second stint, was really looking untouchable, and always looked like he was going to take the lead from Craig. So yeah, Dragio for me takes driver of the day.
Absolutely, massive congratulations to them. And of course, if you enjoyed what you saw and you're looking forward to more action, on Sunday night we have the Xbox League round 2. That is around Spa-Francorchamps as well. That is 9:30 on Sunday. You can find that on twitch.tv/Invictus Leagues. And come Monday night we'll have the F1 League. That'll be round 4 around the Spain Catalonia circuit. That's brought to you at 8 p.m. by Gareth and Sab. Realistic Performance, that's every Tuesday, 8 p.m, Malc and Tim. And in the F2 League, that is Wednesday, 8 p.m, same time as us. That's brought to you by Dan and James. We're just waiting for the top 3 to just filter in for their post-race interviews. An incredible race from all of them. We'll just see who we've got. We'll just hopefully see if we can get the race winner Dragio into the party as well.
Yeah, we've got Dragio.
Has he just joined?
Just wait for his mic to load
up. Good evening to all of you. Just hope that you all have your settings to allow your microphone to be shared. And if I'd like to start with congratulating all of you, but especially Dragio. If I could start with you, did you ever expect from starting P9 at any point in this race that you'd be crossing that finish line first? So I'm not sure if he's just got that.
Yeah, right. Now he's here. I think his mic wasn't working.
Yeah, good evening, Dragio.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, there we are. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. I'll just to repeat the question was, did you ever expect starting from P9 and at any point under the safety cars? Did you ever think you'd be crossing that finish line first?
No. It's the way my races have been going lately. It's just survival. Just hoping for top 10. You know what I mean? But no, it all fell together for me pretty nicely there. So and no mistakes this time as well, which obviously always helps.
Absolutely, penalties we saw dropped just a couple of guys off the podiums there. You didn't pick up any penalties, so a really clean race from you in that respect. But was you surprised by your pace? Because it seemed like after the final safety car, we was expecting there's quite a few guys ahead of you who had newer tyres than you, but you seemed like you had the best tyre life of anyone. You was looking really competitive out there.
Yeah, cheers. Well, I mean, it's, I guess, I don't want to sound like myself, but I guess I know I've got pace. I've just been putting it all together. You know what I mean? Like the last season, and then the first few races, just silly little mistakes and unlucky things. But I know once the car comes to me in a race, I know that I've got the pace to challenge for race wins. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. We'll come back to you in just a minute. Congratulations. We move on to P2, Luke Bailey. Congratulations. You had a really nice qualifying session. It seems like you was robbed of your final lap, but you got pole position anyway. Are you pleased with P2, or do you think you perhaps made the wrong call in the end of the strategy?
No, I made the right calls. The only thing that lost it me is under the first safety car, 4 people just stopped and just basically gifted Craig a free pit stop. So I don't know what's gone off there, but just 4 people in a line just stopped.
Yeah, it seemed to be quite a chaotic period of the race. I had about 3 safety cars in about 4 racing laps or something stupid. But,
yeah, so lost about 5 to 10 seconds there. So yeah, kind of that's the way it went downhill.
But also your team out of the points. You got past F1 Richard on penalties. Craig also dropping out on penalties. In terms of the championship, must be feeling like you picked up quite a few good points on guys who you think are probably going to be around the championship circle.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, should be. I think it should be near the top now. I think with that finish. As for my teammate, yeah, it's a bit unlucky. I had a bit of a unlucky race, a couple of bad moves from other people, but well, yeah, we'll look forward to next week.
Absolutely, a great way to bounce back, course, after a bit of a frustrating Abu Dhabi Grand Prix for you. So congratulations, a really solid P2, some fantastic qualifying and a fantastic race pace. Moving on to you, Steele, for P3. Congratulations, did a really nice job. I think you had one penalty there, but I mean, other than that, again, a bit like Dragio, and after the last safety car came in, you looked really competitive.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
After terrible start, I was in sandwich between two cars, and I got yellow wing, so I I was in pits in second lap. So I was thinking I can do anything, but yes, that safety cars came out and really good for me. And after racing under safety car, well, I think for all of us, last 6-7 laps was really nice, especially for me. 2 hard overtakes and yeah, nice race.
Yeah, absolutely. So you bring up that first lap, of course, because you had quite a really nice qualifying session. You really pulled it out of the bag with a really nice lap, because it seemed to all go out the window for you. But thanks to safety cars, allowed you a second chance, and you absolutely took it. So massive congratulations to you. Really nice race from yourself. If I go back to Dragio, you've won round 3. You said you got the pace to fight for more race wins, and maybe the championship if you can just sort of get the car feeling for you. Is Spa a circuit? Sorry, not Spa. Is Spain a circuit for round 4? Is that a track that you feel you can perhaps get another race win or more, another podium?
I mean, potentially. Obviously the field's ultra competitive. I've definitely turned a lot of laps at Barcelona, so I'll definitely. It's definitely a track I'm comfortable at. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Just practice during the week and see if I can get a setup together, because that's what I struggle a lot with, pinning my setups down. So if I can get that sorted out, hopefully it'll be enough.
Well, absolutely. Let's hope so. And good luck to you, and good luck to all 3 of you for Spain. We hope that you all have another fantastic race there. In terms of these 3, Charlie, where do you see the 2 drivers that you didn't see on the field in the podium? Sorry, Craig and F1 Richard. It seemed to be very much a race of the top 5, and it could have been any one of them who really was on the podium tonight.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot in it. It just came down to penalties at the end, and just sort of keeping your head at the end. Just to Dragio, you had fantastic pace in the second stint. I don't know where that came from, but well done. Yeah, you seemed to pull it out the bag. So got a charge on towards the end and just and kept your head. But yeah, like I say, there wasn't a lot in it. It just came down to penalties at the end, and I expect to see more close racing between these guys as the season goes on.
Absolutely, it's been a fascinating evening again. Of course, we have 3 different race winners from the opening 3 rounds. Let's hope we can have that in round 4 in Catalonia. As again, that is next Wednesday at 8 PM. We'll be seeing these guys again out on track, and hopefully for maybe a few less safety cars, but hopefully for at least similarly good action. Really nice ending to the race. So well done to all 3 of them. Well done to everyone tonight, and hope to see you all very soon. Goodbye.